everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alyssa Harris. I'm a vocalist and a vocal coach, just coming on here with some tips and tricks for all my fellow singers out there. Today is a little bit of a different type of video. Today I'm going to be doing a review or just some commentary about the Netflix docuseries called Trainwreck Poop Cruise. Now, why is this so interesting and why are we talking about this today? Not only is it about cruise ships, and as you guys know, I've worked on cruise ships for several years. It's about the cruise ship that I actually went on in 2013, a few months after the whole poop cruise incident happened. It was my very first ship, my first professional singing contract, my first cruise ship contract ever. And when I showed up back in 2013, I didn't know really anything about like that incident that had happened months prior. They didn't really talk about it. I mean, social media was a thing back then, but it wasn't exactly like how it is now, where it would have been like kind of all over flooding social media. So when I saw the documentary, when we were watching it, it was like, oh my gosh, you know, a blast from the past. It reminded me of that time of my life, and I kind of wanted to just talk about my opinion about the documentary, but also about kind of like my experiences on board. And so if that sounds interesting, it's gonna be a fun video today. But before we jump in, make sure you are subscribed to my channel. I'm trying to grow the singer community, like this video, and also turn on the notification bell. So we turned on Netflix the other day and I see this Trainwreck Poop Cruise. I mean, Trainwreck, it's like a series that they have on Netflix now, chronicling like different incidents that have happened that are like disastrous or whatever. Just go on Netflix and type in Trainwreck and you'll see all the different episodes, and they're like really interesting and funny. And when I saw the one about the poop cruise, I'm like, oh, here we go, you know, more propaganda about cruise ships being dangerous or dirty or whatever. I think there's just like so much negative press or like negative connotations about cruise ships out there. But so when I saw this, I was like, oh, here we go. And then when I realized what ship it was, I was like, oh my God, yeah, like it reminded me. It's almost like I forgot it. Like I like buried that in my mind. I'm like, I do kind of recall that. But anyway, like I said, the Carnival Triumph was actually my very first cruise ship that I ever got hired to work on. It was my very first contract. I was a singer in the band on the ship. And honestly, I was so excited to do that contract. So whether or not I heard about the whole thing that had happened, I probably would have still gone. I mean, if I would have told people, they would have probably said, don't do it, don't go on it, it's dangerous, whatever. But I have a feeling I probably still would have gone. And I know that once I was there, I do remember people talking about it and being like, oh, this is like a brand new, you know, we'd just done renovations and like we've revamped the whole ship. And I didn't exactly know the details. I knew that they had some kind of like something happened, but it wasn't documented and it wasn't like revealed the way that it is now, you know, for the whole world to see. As you can see, it's on Netflix, so everybody knows kind of about what happened at this point. It was interesting watching that documentary as a person like who was not only on that ship, but on that ship during that time, or like very shortly after that time. It was really like illuminating, and it was also kind of like nostalgic because I saw some of the people that were talking in the documentary. I actually know them. Jen Baxter, she was my cruise director on the Triumph that year, and some other ships. I've worked for Carnival for like oh my gosh, you do the math. It's 2025 for over a decade at this point. So I know a lot of people, you know, that are in the company. So it was kind of cool, and Jen did a really good job. She was explaining it, and she's an amazing cruise director. So she handled that emergency. It's really not so much about what happens, it's about how you react to it. And I think that she did an amazing job like responding. So if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna do a little brief catch up. I want you guys to go watch it and everything. So basically, in a nutshell, what the documentary is about, it talks about what happened back in 2013 to the Carnival Triumph. There was actually a fire in the engine room that happened on the ship during one of the cruises, and what happened was it caused a power outage, which subsequently caused a plumbing outage. And so there was an emergency on board where people weren't able to use the facilities, and you can kind of imagine what happened from there. But the documentary talks about kind of what people were doing in the kind of emergency state of the ship where it was stopped. The lights had, you know, some of the power was out in some places of the ship, the toilets weren't working, so on and so forth, and kind of talking about how people were fighting over food or fighting over chairs or like different things. It kind of just became like this crazy couple days at sea. And yes, it sounded like an absolute disaster. And having been, you know, having worked on cruise ships for as long as I have, I've never experienced that exact situation, but I've definitely experienced power outages. I've experienced a lot of different things that have happened on ships that didn't get to that point, you know, where we had to like stop or we had to call the Coast Guard or anything like that. So it was interesting seeing those people's experience in a more serious like emergency situation. The documentary did a good job kind of like painting the picture of cruise life and how everybody's there to have a good time. But then when SHIT really hit the fan, you know, literally, people were kind of starting to panic. I thought it was really kind of crazy because they open up the possibilities of like, okay, so if there's no power and there's no food, you know, people are gonna start stealing from each other, people are gonna start committing crimes, people were getting drunk because they opened the bar at one point. It was an interesting look into like human behavior when you're stranded and there's like nothing else to do, like how do people act in that situation. But I think overall, like I said, I think they did a good job. I'm friends still with Jen Baxter, the cruise director. I'm still friends with her on Facebook, and she posted about it when the episode first came out. She was posting statuses about like, oh, hey, you know, like, thanks guys for watching the documentary, they did a good job. But she was also saying that they exaggerated a lot, which I definitely agree. In the documentary, they made it seem like, oh, there was just like feces and urine all over the walls and people were just like, you know, fighting and doing all this kind of stuff. And like, yeah, that was definitely an exaggeration. And I think they had to exaggerate a lot of parts of it to make it really appealing. I think there's this idea that cruise ships are this crazy environment where people just lose all their inhibitions and they act crazy, and maybe that's the case sometimes, but I think in general, like, it's a lot less dramatic than they tried to make it seem on that documentary. But overall, I thought it was good, especially as a person who has worked on cruise ships for so long. One of the key takeaways that I got from that documentary was just seeing how strong and how resilient the crew members really are on ships. A lot of people are on their cruise ship contracts for 6 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year, and they face a lot of obstacles while they're on the ship. Maybe not necessarily like a power outage or an emergency, but every single day something pops up. There's always something going on ships that is challenging. As crew, as a team, like, I could tell, and I just know that because of, you know, all my friends and just being a crew member for so long. It's like we all band together, you know, just because we want to please the guests, we want to please the passengers, we want everybody to have a good time, and that's kind of like our priority. And that was the case on the Triumph. They were hit with a lot of unexpected problems. They were hit with a lot of crap, like, no pun intended. They're putting up with a lot, not only just being away from home, but just being around people, being in difficult situations, you know, even working with difficult people, but banding together and using teamwork and like having a positive attitude. I just know that that was what they were doing on that ship to kind of like keep everybody happy. As you'll see in the documentary, it took a few days to like finally get things like going. It was just like a disaster. It was like one thing after another. This is not necessarily a spoiler review. I want you guys to like go watch it and like tell me what you think about it in the comments. It was kind of encouraging because you know that in the world of cruise ships, any job really, but specifically cruise ships, it's a very unique type of job because you live at your workplace, you work with hundreds and thousands of different people, different cultures, and you see a bunch of new people every week, and you are thrown in a lot of challenging situations. This one, the most challenging for, I'm sure, a lot of the crew members. This was probably one of their most like crazy experiences, but they worked together. And the second thing was that brand confidence. I mean, Carnival Cruise Lines is one of the major cruise lines. It's one of the biggest companies. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, and the cruise industry, it's huge, it's booming. After that incident, I think that maybe it might have left a taste in some people's mouth, but overall, I don't think that it hurt Carnival's brand. I don't think that it hurt necessarily cruise industry as a whole. I think people were able to see it as an isolated incident. Maybe some people didn't. Maybe some people like had that experience and they were like, never again. A lot of people I've seen, just in my experience, like even when they encounter things that go wrong on cruises and like cruise ships, I don't think it deters them from wanting to take another one. Clearly that was over 10 years ago. That's 12 years ago now, and Carnival is thriving. They continue to have customers and they continue to book cruises. So that ship that started as the Carnival Triumph, they've gutted the whole thing, they've renovated, they've put new shows on there, they've even renamed it. It's actually called the Carnival Sunrise now. It's not even the Triumph anymore. So I think like that incident, I don't think that it necessarily affected anything permanently, like for Carnival or for their guests, maybe a few people, but in general, I think that they were able to bounce back from it and kind of just sort of get back into the flow. But overall, like I said, I think it's a good documentary. I think it kind of shows like a little insight, especially if you've never like been on a ship before. If you were thinking about taking a cruise and you saw that documentary and you were like, oh no, absolutely not, I'm gonna encourage you and say like, don't be afraid. That was probably like a one-off, like a fluke. They did say in the end that those engine troubles or that fire could have been prevented. There was a whole thing. So I think it kind of got sketchy right there, like a little bit fishy, like, okay, you know, is Carnival putting the right safety practices in place? And we haven't really heard of much of those things happening lately. So I don't know if it's necessarily a problem anymore. That's, I guess, the one silver lining when these types of situations happen, is that they're able to learn what not to do, or they're able to practice their crisis management and do better the next time. So I think that was probably what happened in this case as well. So if you've seen that docuseries, if you've seen that episode, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section. Also, if you want to know more about cruise ships, about cruise life, if you're a singer, if you're a performer, and you want to know a little bit more about that world and about that industry, you're in the right place. I help a lot of singers with different aspects of their career, not just on cruise ships, in every part of the entertainment and performance arena. So if that's you, if that sounds interesting to you, make sure that you subscribe to my channel for more videos and more information. Make sure you keep in touch with me, follow me on all the social medias, and I will see you all in the next video.